Ben from Ligature Marks is joining Ghost Cult Magazine today. How are you, man?
I'm great, man. I'm great. This last couple of weeks have been really busy. We've been in the studio trying to do the next record. So we were recording drums the last couple of days, and I've been doing a bunch of press. I've been doing a bunch of podcasts lately. I also host a podcast. So the last couple of weeks have been cranking.
Keller, man. I first of all, I applaud your productivity. It's been a tough time the last calendar year, 13 months of brutality, and not the kind that we like riffs and music videos and playing live and headbanging. We and screaming our guts out. It's been a brutal time more than ever in the world. So I appreciate you for your stick to itiveness.
Oh man, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I think
Big
the downtime kind of lent its hand to uh having some time to catch up and be creative, like you get things taken off your plate, like playing live and that kind of stuff, and it kind of forces you to be productive in other ways, make videos, make records, make art.
make something with your
Absolutely.
time, do something, improve yourself, be all Henry Rollins about it and just lock yourself in the room and put on jazz records and work out. I'm doing none of that, of course. I'm just, eating my fucking feelings and, listening to music on end. And that's been the savior for me, has been music and talking to artists like yourself and bands and just trying to promote the scene.
That's very cool, man, and we appreciate you doing it. I think people like yourself are kind of the gatekeepers and kind of give other people permission to explore a band, right? Like somebody like you does a podcast and you tell a band or you tell an audience, hey, check out this band. I think it holds a lot of weight.
Thank you, first of all. I had an amazing comment earlier. I was going through my YouTube comments and I try to respond to all of them. And I had an awesome comment. I interviewed Olaf from Enforcer, heavy metal band from Scandinavia, like throwback heavy metal. And somebody was like, wow, you really kiss this guy's ass. And I was like, I don't really kiss anybody's ass. I don't talk to anybody I don't like. So I don't have that, like, I don't have that license as a website, and we try to be journalistic about our news, and we try to be thoughtful and serious about our reviews. But when I talk to someone like yourself or anyone else, it's because I really want to talk to them, and I'm interested in them, and I'm interested in what they do and why they do it, which is why we're chatting today. But it was awesome to get the insult comment, and I published it. I don't care. Diss me, love me, hate me, feel something. That's why we do what we do. I used to play in bands. I hated when, listen, you come from the metal and hardcore scene. You've seen a lot of this,
Yep.
in the past, at least once, somebody fully disinterested and not feeling you. And I would antagonize these people. Like, listen, if you don't march to this next song, you're an asshole or like you're a dick. If you don't punch somebody out during this next fight song or this next breakdown riff, you're soft. And I would just dog people because like not feeling anything is the worst thing for me. I'm sure it's the same for you.
Absolutely, man. I think being numb paves way to being complacent, and that's something that I've never really identified with. I'm not a very bored person, so when you have the dudes that just seem disinterested in anything that a band's trying to show them, I don't know, it doesn't help create a good music scene.
I fully endorse that. So let's dive into some stuff here, man. You're in kind of a low, I don't want to say a super group, but a low key band of well known musicians from other bands in some cases. You work with some really awesome guest artists, and you come from a scene that is not known, is very well known in like stoner and doom and a few other things. And I'm, obviously the Pacific Northwest is like a huge legendary place for all kinds of music, but like how you kind of have an anomaly type of band in your scene. So before the pandemic, in those times, what was it like trying to kind of throw your bones out there and make your name in a weird place?
I mean, it's kind of a weird thing because I'm on the inside looking out, being from Portland, right? So I've kind of always thought that Portland has um this pretty cool metal scene that's not just stoner rock, or that's not, because we do indie rock pretty well here too. We do a lot of Subaru Outbacks and guys with fucking beards and glasses here. So um to me it just kind of ebbed and flowed with like as far as the music scene goes. Like we lost some venues. Obviously this year with the pandemic we lost a lot more venues, but Portland always seems to kind of go in waves. Like we were playing this club with one of the first bands that I was in called the Paris Theater. um I mean, way back in the day, fucking 2003, and it was a porno theater, and then it became a music venue, and then it went back to a porno theater, and then eventually became a music venue again, like within the last couple of years, like just before the pandemic. So I don't know. As far as the metal scene goes, to me, it's always kind of been existent in Portland.
Rad. And I love by the way, I'm a fan of Portland. I visited the city. I love those clubs. My self-interest is I want them to stay open. We've covered a lot of festivals and all kinds of stuff in the town. And like I feel like it's one of the pinnacle places for heavy music in the country, and I want it to continue.
Yeah, you and me both, man. I hope the scene can kind of pull itself together once the fucking dust settles from everything that's been going on in the world. But I mean, Portland always has this sense of unity, you know. Portland always has this big sense of like community when it comes to our music scene. So
I dig that.
I think we'll persevere, man. I think we'll get through it. Some of the clubs are surviving. I've noticed a lot of clubs have taken the downtime to renovate. You know, they've been upgrading their sound. They've been painting the walls. They've been making everything, you know, ready for it to come back hard. And I think it's going to.
Right on. Hopefully, some of them are doing some successful fundraisers. I've been trying to keep tabs on this, and across the country, it's hard to maintain a. I think Pitchfork has a rolling list. I don't like to plug them, but especially because they kind of hate metal a lot and never covered metal until it made them some money, and it was cool.
Which is real
So
weird.
they would never have covered Red Fang until they broke out and became like a famous, fun band. Or any other band, but suddenly it was cool for them to like metal, and then they were But anyway, they have a rolling list of all the venues shutting down or staying open or whatever. So I appreciate that, at least their ability to do a listicle. As for you guys, like you said, prolific, being busy, all this stuff, and Ligature Marks has a deluxe edition re-release of your last record. So let's hear about the decision to do that and how that's hopefully a springboard to whatever you guys are doing next.
Yeah. We just kind of felt that there was a lot of content on that record that got kind of overlooked because we didn't know necessarily what the fuck we were doing when it came to like making announcements and doing press releases. And then we teamed up with a really good management team and PR team, and they were like, you know, we should do a reissue, put a couple more songs on it because the next record's not going to be ready for a little while. So yeah, decided to put it together and put it out as a Bandcamp exclusive. Bandcamp's been treating bands real good lately, especially with their Bandcamp Fridays where they don't take any percentage and they give 100% to the bands. So yeah, that was it. We had a couple songs that were sort of in between records. You know, we didn't know. The idea was to release singles instead of just releasing a full album at a time. And you know, with the everything that's been going on, it kind of shut the world down and kind of put everything on hold, and it wasn't necessarily the best time to release music, and so we compiled it up and decided to do the deluxe edition.
Right on. I love this record. I was sort of decently familiar with the previous release, and now I'm listening to the promo for the new stuff, and the new tracks seem fit well. They seamlessly fit. And what I like about your band is that you don't sacrifice the heaviness to be melodic, but you're also not melodic in a very typical way. A lot of the melodies are, even in heavy vocals, there's a hint of melody, or there's really cool layering of guitars and interesting, like you got to re-listen to a couple of tracks to catch what you might miss, an extra layer of guitar or something, which a lot of heavy bands don't really do well. So I really like that about you guys.
Thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. We spent a lot of time crafting those songs in particular, which was part of the reason we decided we wanted to try and push them again and give them kind of a second life. And as far as like the blend between the heavy and the melodic stuff, when we first formed the band, Karl, one of our guitar players, and I were talking about, I didn't even want to do any singing. I wanted to go balls to the walls, like because I'd never had the opportunity to just be in a fucking heavy band. And so the band really had to push me to add some melodic vocals onto the stuff. They were like, you know, this has room for a hook. We should probably try and put the hook on there rather than just going Cookie Monster through the whole thing. So applaud the band, applaud the rest of the band for that, trying to push me toward it, because I was trying to go the opposite direction. I was trying to go more heavy.
There you go. Well, sometimes success happens when you step out of your comfort zone or you get pushed into a new direction by some other forces. So pretty cool. I like the results. Getting to hear you do this stuff. So I don't know if you're gonna what the next thing will bring, but I dig what you're doing right now.
I would say that with the newest stuff that we've been in the studio working on, it's going more in both of those directions. So I think there's some stuff that's even heavier than the stuff that's on Oceans, and I think that there's stuff that's even more melodic. You know, like I was singing falsetto harmonies the other night in the studio.
All
So
right,
so I mean we're we're making it
like
happen.
Mariah Carey or Gary Sharon.
I would say more like Boys to Men.
Word. Okay, we'll do some Boys to Men right now, man. I love some Motown Philly and the end
Dude,
of the road.
I was singing that shit in the shower when I was warming up to go to the studio.
Yeah, man, I love that shit. That's great. I think they're down to three guys now,
Yep.
and or two. I don't remember,
I think
but
it's three. Every time I see a press photo when they're playing a local
it's
casino
just
or
yeah.
something, I'm like, man, where's the rest of the guys at?
And I'm a little surprised that some more of those guys didn't become like big solo artists by themselves. They were big, like successful, but I think bigger. I would have thought bigger.
Yeah, I never followed up on what they did really after the peak. You know, like
Yeah,
they're probably producing. I would imagine. I bet a few of those dudes have a lot of producer
right.
credits.
Or teaching, right? You would think if you could sing at that level really well, you could teach other people to sing. And I'm not going to get into a divergent conversation about the lack of quality singers in pop music or R&B, but
Good point.
you sing metal guys screaming in a show doesn't mean you're going to be a good singer or screaming lyrics in the car with your friends like Wayne's World. Just like singing in the church doesn't make you a good R&B singer. Sorry, everybody.
Good point, man. It's a very good point.
Sorry to drop that mic. I'm gonna do that. I kind of have a singing background also. I sang in bands and
Oh, very
a
cool.
whole thing. Somewhat cool. I'm doing this now, so not as cool as I would like, but I still stay connected to what I love. Here's a fun thing for you. You have a band with a pair of brothers. So a lot of famous bands have brothers in a good sense. Van Halen, Pantera, rest in peace, but also Oasis. So
Good,
what's
good
that
point.
dynamic like for Ligature Marks? Is it a good dynamic or sometimes a friction?
I think it's amazing. I don't ever really notice any friction between those two. They're Carl and Josh are very different personalities from each other. So I don't it doesn't lend for a lot of tension between them at all. Actually, I think if anything, it's an asset. They kind of I don't want to say they can read each other's minds, but so here's another funny fact. Carl is also a twin, and our drummer also has a fucking twin, which is why they became friends, which is really weird. They bonded over the fact that they were each a twin. Um, but getting back to Carl and Josh, yeah, I don't think it's ever been a point of friction. They don't brotherly fight. I mean, at all. I think they work really well together. If anything else, it they have this chemistry from growing up together. You know, speaking of
Killer.
brothers and bands, Gojira.
Yes, of course. How could I forget? Their new record's about to drop. I'm so very psyched for some new
You can
Gojira.
like with those two dudes, you can kind of tell that they've spent their whole lives together by the way they play together. You know, they can do that mental telepathy sibling thing where they know when one person's going to make a change. Or I think you only get that from knowing somebody your whole life.
That's fair. And I love when Gojira plays live and Joe jumps on the drums and blasts, and Mario will pick up the guitar and just scream nonsense into the
So
microphone
so
and do
cool.
like a lot of heavy metal shit. Like, come on, you know?
It's so good, man.
Like, yeah, a lot of fun. They're so fun. And I'm what a time to be alive that they can put out a new record and help the rainforest and indigenous people everywhere with like an org, which
Dude,
isn't.
everything those guys put out, Carl refers to them as god tier when it comes to music and when it comes to being performers and stuff. It's just like, fuck, man. I used to run a music venue, and we were doing Gojira 15 years ago. They were coming through and touring there, and it's so awesome to see that progression of that band. They were playing a 450 cap room, and then now they're co-headlining with Slipknot on tours.
Craytown, going to open for Deftones when concerts come back in the fall. I'm stoked personally. So that's exciting. How did you get you? You seem like you have your touch. You spinning a lot of plates even now. How did you
Fuck.
get started in music? How did you get started in bands? And how did that lead to you doing all these other things?
I mean, as far as being a singer goes, I mean, it was in high school, and a friend of mine who I had a couple classes with was a drummer, and he was like, "Hey, can you sing?" And I was like, I don't think so." And he's like, "Can you scream?" And I was like, "People tell me I have a loud voice, so I'm frequently being told to tone it down. So I mean, yeah, let's give it a try." And that was pretty much it. And I pretty much sucked up until, I mean, I'm still not very great, but I sucked it up and tried screaming into a microphone for several years, being off key and being awful, and, and that was pretty much it. Trial and error, lots of trial and error.
I hear that. It takes time. It definitely takes time to hone your instrument, whatever that instrument is. So very cool. You got to do a really cool new music video. You mentioned it at the top, and I wanted to shout it out again. Super fun, super scary. Little one flew over the cuckoo's nest. There's like very at the top of the video, you unintentionally have like a superhero landing. It's really cool.
I super appreciate you doing the cuckoo's nest reference, because that's why I wore the beanie. That's why I wore
Yes.
the flipped up beanie. I was like, all right, I'm gonna go cuckoo's nest on this.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was the question?
No, just let's talk about this. Let's talk about this video. Like, what a cool concept, and looks like it was shot, not too long ago, considering the time we're in right now. So
Yeah,
I
we
really dig the creativity of it.
thank you, man. I appreciate that. We started it in July, and we were filming obviously mid-pandemic. My family lives out in a little town in Oregon called Mosier, which is out in the Columbia River Gorge. So basically, like the windsurfing and kiteboarding capital of the world. And there's a little community school out there that I think now is a charter school. And I was brainstorming with my dad about places that we could film that kind of looked industrial, because when this music video started, we had a completely different vision for the video. Like the whole concept for the video was not what it turned out to be. And what happened is he was telling me about this boiler room at this old school, and I was like, oh, this is perfect. We can film in this boiler room, uh, and it'll look creepy and metal, and it'll look great on camera. And so I contacted the school, and they were completely open to the idea of us filming there. They're like, this is going to be so fun. Like, you guys are welcome to do whatever you want. Just let us know when you need to get in there, and we'll help you in. So I went down there and I did a walk through the school, and the school ended up being so awesome looking that I was like, we got to change the concept of the video. We can't have access to this beautiful old building and then just film in the fucking boiler room, right? Like, we can find an industrial weird room pretty much anywhere, but having access to these crazy long hallways and checkerboard floors and staircases, and the outside of the school is gorgeous. And so we ended up talking to the school. They were into it, and we ended up kind of rewriting the script, and that was it. Booked it and filmed it.
Very cool. Running around in a hospital gown. I imagine you didn't have clothes on under there, but I hope maybe you
I,
had something protecting you.
I did. People were trying to push me to do the bare ass in the back, but I didn't do it. I didn't do it. And I didn't have the cojones to pull off the bare ass running through the hallways of the grade school.
Even a pun right there. Cojones pun. Nice work. Yeah, man. Well, congrats on that. And I think it's going to help people really become aware of you if they weren't before, or appreciate you a little more now. Again, anybody putting out music right now, um, it's been crazy. And anybody who feels like they can't do anything, they feel hamstrung by this time, they're going to wait it out. That's cool too. No judging. But I do feel like bands that are a little more proactive and working on stuff will be better prepared, whatever the future looks like.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Like when people are feeling like a weight globally, and there's so much tension, I feel like it makes for good art. I feel like every time that we're in times of turmoil, that the best art gets created. So I feel like a lot of people are going to use this for inspiration, and having the downtime with everybody else paused, and kind of like resetting everybody to the same level when it comes to like how productive you can be. I feel like that's a good thing. It's almost like if you are a surfer and there's a sneaker wave that comes through, right? Like, some people are going to make it through, some people are going to get swept back, but either way, it's kind of a resetting of the balance of everything. So I
Word.
don't know. Use it as a time to catch up, I guess.
Right on. I like that perspective. Obviously, I sincerely hope you and the band are well and you didn't suffer any personal losses. Also, the Portland area is a mess politically and emotionally during this whole last year with everything going on in the country. So I sincerely hope you and all your peeps are intact and your families. Assuming that's it and that's the case, what else have you been doing? Because you, again, spinning many plates. What do you do to keep yourself just outside of music, fit, sane, active, mentally stimulated? What do you do for fun when it's not music?
Yeah. So in particular, over the last year, going back to the spinning plates thing, I do graphic design and marketing for a real career. Not that music isn't a real career. I just I can't pay the rent with music yet. um so I tend to try and just make as much art as possible. Like I will do freelance graphic design, and I also have a couple clients that I work with that I've worked with for quite a number of years. As far as hobbies and shit goes, jujitsu, surfing are kind of my biggest hobbies. And then I just took over a podcast. One of my clients, the owner was running a podcast, and he decided he didn't want to do it anymore. And I thought the concept for the podcast was really cool, so I took that over.
Let's hear about it. Talk about it. Let's go.
Yeah, the company is called Datsusara, and they're a hemp jujitsu brand. So we make like backpacks and jujitsu gis and that kind of stuff. But the whole Datsusara lifestyle idea is the name kind of loosely means to abandon the corporate life and carve your own path. So that's what the podcast focuses on. So we interview everybody from combat athletes, MMA people who have obviously chosen to walk that path, to entrepreneurs, to TV people, to musicians, to just anybody that's kind of carved their own way in life.
Amazing. You know who in my mind immediately ticks three of those boxes is my dude Billy Graziadei from Biohazard and Billy Bio and Powerflow and all these things. He's in jujitsu. He's an entrepreneur and obviously a lifer in metal and hardcore. So that's a dude.
I didn't know that he was a jiu-jitsu guy.
Oh, he's a big jujitsu guy. Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
He might even train with a Gracie. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I know that's like the first family of jujitsu, owing to the fact that I know nothing else other than appreciating martial arts.
Totally. I just did a podcast with Rose Gracie night before last.
Yeah, that's awesome. Wow.
She's like the matriarch of the family.
Ladonia.
Totally.
The mom, the matriarch. That's killer, dude.
Billy has worked with our friends in Proven.
Sure.
Band Proven. So
he's a producer for years, many years. He's got a new entrepreneurial thing that's one half charity, one half business called Crew Socks that he's really passionate about, that donate socks for every pair you buy to people in need. Incredible stuff. So I'm always I'm from New York originally, so I will rep Biohazard till I die.
Like, where are you at now?
I'm in California. I just relocated, and it was a lifelong East Coast guy, so I'm adjusting to the West Coast now.
Is it a little slower paced?
A lot, but it's what I needed after the pandemic for me personally, is to go quieter.
And, so real recent move.
Yeah, real recent. Yeah, yeah. So, but it's all good. I love I've always loved the West Coast. I always had an affinity for this place. I love Portland. I've never been to Seattle. That's on the bucket list. Big music guy like me, I should have at least been to Seattle once in my life.
Yeah, the EMP Museum, man. You gotta check that out. It's pretty groovy.
Indeed. And yeah, man. So super cool to catch up with you on all these things. You got anything else you want to promote or shine a light on? Now's a good time.
Sure. We got the reissue coming out like we talked about earlier. So Set Oceans on Fire re-release comes out June 11th. We are always kind of keeping busy. So we've got another EP pretty much on deck. Just finished up drums. 2 songs are done with vocals. So I got 3 more to track with vocals. And then Datsusara podcast. It's you can find everything at dsgear.com for that. ligaturemarks.com for anything band related. Yeah, that's what I got going.
All right, man. Killer. So cool to catch up with you today, Ben. Thank you so much for hanging out and spending some time with Ghost Cult as the dog is barking in the background for no particular reason. But
that's all right.
Well, that's as you do with dogs and cats and things. But thank you so much for your time, man. I'm super hyped for this re-release and whatever else you got coming out in the future.
Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you having me on.
My pleasure, man. Thanks so much.